Hello everyone. Welcome to History class. Today we are going to continue lesson 5 of history, traders to rulers. Earlier we had discussed about the internal and external situations of India in the second half of the 18th century, advent of European companies, Anglo-French rivalry and British conquest of Bengal. And today we are going to discuss about the dual government and opponents of the British rule. And the main objectives of today's topic are you will come to know about dual government system in Bengal, British expansion under Lord Wellesley, period of rapid expansion of the British territories in India, and opponents of the British rule in India. But before discussing these topics, let us discuss new words related to it. Dual government. Dual government means double system of administration. Nizamat, military and criminal jurisdiction. Jurisdiction, an official power to make legal decisions and judgments. Subsidiary alliance. According to subsidiary alliance, the Indian rulers could seek the British protection but had to give up their native troops or soldiers. Alliance, an agreement between countries, political parties, etc. Annex, to take control of a country or region, especially by force. Here, a person who has the legal right to receive somebody's property after the death of that person. Resident. Resident here means a British officer who is political or commercial agent. Paramountcy, supreme power or authority. Doctrine of lapse, a policy introduced by Lord Dalhousie. According to this policy, if any Indian ruler died without leaving a natural male heir to the throne, then the British would annex his kingdom. Now, our topic is dual government. But before reading it from the book, let us discuss the main points. Dual government means double system of administration, and it was introduced by Robert Clive in 1765 and continued till 1772. Under this system, the administration of Bengal was divided into two parts, Diwani and Nizamat. Diwani means right to collect revenue was given to company and Nizamat means administrative rights were given to Nawab. Mainly, the dual government was the result of company's refusal to take direct responsibility of administering Bengal. Now, let us read from the book. In 1765, Robert Clive introduced the dual government system in Bengal. It lasted till 1772. Under this system, the Nawab performed all the responsibilities but had no powers or resources. Resources means funds. The company had all powers but no responsibilities. Means the dual government in Bengal was introduced by Robert Clive in 1765, and under that system the Nawab or the king had all the responsibilities but had no power or resources, while on the other hand the English had all the powers but no responsibilities. The British controlled the collection of revenue, and the Nizamat, that was military and criminal jurisdiction, was given to the Nawab. Means the English East India Company got the Diwani of Bengal, means they had got the right of collecting the land revenue from Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. But on the other hand, the official power to make legal decisions and judgments related to military and criminals was given to the Nawab or king. The Nawab was given a small share of the revenue to run the administration. Under the leadership of Robert Clive, during that time, the company increased the rates of revenue, but they used to give only a small share of revenue to Nawab for running the administration. The people of Bengal suffered a lot under this system. This system made the company the virtual ruler of Bengal. Virtual means effective. Under the dual government, the people of Bengal faced many of the difficulties. Company increased the rates of the revenue and harsh measures were used to collect the revenue. In 1770, a famine broke out in Bengal. Famine means scarcity of food or shortage of food that wiped out nearly one third of the population. Even then, no aid was provided by the company or the Nawab. Aid means support or help. In reality, the famine in Bengal was the combination of both weather and the policies of the British East India Company. Even during famine, neither the Nawab of Bengal nor the British East India Company gave the help or support to the people of Bengal. The welfare of the people was completely neglected by both the company and Nawab. British appointed collector to collect revenue and people were forced to pay high rates. As they were not capable to pay, they left the villages and fled to the other villages. And in this way, company's policies led famine in Bengal, which occurred in 1770. Meanwhile, the company's officials earned great wealth. As the revenue rates were increased by the company's officials and they were forcing the people to pay the high rates, so in this way, the company's officials were earning the great wealth. But they were giving a very small share of the revenue to the Nawab for running the administration. And after that, in 1772, Warren Hastings became the new Governor General of Bengal. And during his tenure or time period, the dual system of governance ended and Bengal came under the direct control of the English East India Company. And the Indian Nawabs became mere prisoners under the English East India Company. Now let us read and discuss about British expansion under Lord Wellesley from 1798 till 1805. Lord Wellesley was the Governor General of India from 1798 to 1805. He extended the British rule in two ways. The first way was subsidiary alliance and the second was outright wars. According to subsidiary alliance, the Indian rulers could seek the British protection but had to give up their native troops or soldiers. And outright wars means the direct wars. Subsidiary alliance. As per the subsidiary alliance, a ruler had to disband his own army. He had to maintain British troops permanently at his cost or cede some territories in lieu of it. In case a ruler failed to make payments, a part of his territory was taken away as penalty. Means, according to the terms of this alliance, the Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company but had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of his protection. And if the Indian rulers failed to give the payment, then the part of their territory was taken away by the company as a fine. A ruler had to accept a British officer called the resident. He was to be stationed at the ruler's court. He was a political or commercial agent. His job was to further the British interest. Means the English East India Company placed a British official in the ruler's court and that official was called the resident and the main duty of the resident was to give advice to the ruler of the protected state and to check the sale and purchase of the goods as per the company's instructions for its benefits. A ruler had to expel all other foreigners for his territory. As per the alliance, the rulers were not allowed to employ the services of any non British Europeans and would have to remove or relieve those who were already employed in the territory. A ruler had to consult the British before negotiating with other Indian states. As per the subsidiary alliance, any other treaty with other powers or any other Indian states was forbidden without the consent of the company. And under Richard Wellesley as the Governor General from 1798 till 1805, the Nizam of Hyderabad was the first to sign the subsidiary alliance in 1798. And in 1801, Lord Wellesley pressurized the Nawab of Awadh to accept the subsidiary alliance. The Nawab of Awadh was forced to accept the subsidiary alliance as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. And after that, Peshwa Bajirao II signed the subsidiary alliance, and many other Rajput chiefs also accepted British supremacy or leadership and signed the treaties. Now let us read and discuss about the period of rapid expansion that was from 1805 till 1848. This period experienced rapid expansion of British territories in India as well as abroad. Policy of paramountcy. Paramountcy means supreme power or authority. Lord Hastings was the Governor General from 1813 to 1823. He initiated the new policy of paramountcy. Under this, the British claimed that the authority of the company was supreme. The Indian states could be annexed or threatened to be annexed in the interest of the company. Annexed means occupied. So, under the policy of paramountcy, the company claimed that its authority was paramount or supreme, means its power was greater than that of the Indian states. And for company's interest, any of the state could be occupied by the British. The policy explicitly expressed the expansionist intention of the British. Explicitly means clearly, and intention means purpose. So, through the policy of paramountcy, the main purpose of the British was to expand the British territories in India. However, the revolt of Rani Chennamma of Kittur, who took to arms when the British tried to annex her state, showed the non acceptance of the policy. Kittur is a place in Karnataka. When the British tried to annex Kittur, many of the people were against the company and the people did not quit. And Rani Chennamma took arms and led an anti British resistance movement. She fought very bravely against the British, but later on she was arrested by the British in 1824 and died in the prison in 1829. And in this way, the company started annexing many of the Indian territories for its own interest or trade. The expansion of the British territories was challenged by the Indian rulers. So now let us read and discuss the challenges during the British expansion. Afghanistan and Sindh. Sindh is present day in Pakistan. In the 1830s, the British started interfering in Afghanistan's internal affairs as they thought Russia might expand across Asia and attack India via Afghanistan. During that time, Russia was also trying to expand its empire. So the British thought that Russia might expand across Asia and attack India through northwest part. So the British started interfering in Afghanistan's internal affairs and this insecurity resulted in First Anglo-Afghan War between 1839 and 1842. The British failed to establish direct control over Afghanistan due to very strong resistance. Resistance means opposition. So, many prolonged wars were fought between the British and Afghanistan, and the British were defeated and were failed to establish direct control over Afghanistan. However, they annexed Sindh in 1843, and after annexing Sindh, they tried to annex Punjab. Punjab flourished under Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He kept Punjab free from the clutches of the British through diplomacy and maintained a strong army on European lines. Clutches means grip or hold. The British too knew that it was not so easy to win over Punjab under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, as Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a strong warrior and even he was very skillful in managing the international relations. So he maintained a very strong army against the British, but in 1839, Maharaja Ranjit Singh died. After his death, there was chaos and the British began interfering in the affairs of Punjab. Chaos means disarray or confusion. Due to weak successes of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the British took an advantage and started interfering in the internal affairs of Punjab. This led to two Anglo-Sikh wars from 1845 till 1849, in which the Sikhs were defeated. So we can conclude that two Anglo-Sikh wars were fought between the Sikhs and the British, in which the Sikhs were defeated and the British under Lord Dalhousie annexed Punjab in 1849. After annexing Punjab in 1849, the British tried to control Burma, the present-day Myanmar. So in 1852, the British established their control over Lower Burma, coastal Myanmar, and the eastern coast of Bay of Bengal. Now let us read and discuss about the British expansion under Lord Dalhousie from 1848 till 1856. The final annexations occurred under Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856. He devised a policy that was came to be known as Doctrine of Lapse. And according to this policy, if any Indian ruler died without leaving a natural male heir to the throne, then the British would annex his kingdom. Now let us read from the book. Doctrine of Lapse. Doctrine of Lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. This also aimed to annex the Indian states. According to it, a dependent state or subsidiary state would pass into British hands if the ruler died without a natural male heir. It refused to recognize the right of adopted children to inherit the throne, but allowed them the right to private property. That means, according to Doctrine of Lapse, if any Indian ruler died without leaving a natural male heir, its complete territory would be captured by the British. Means, if any independent Indian ruler had adopted any child, then according to the Doctrine of Lapse, the adopted child had no right to receive the throne from his predecessor, and in that case, the entire territory of that ruler would be annexed by the British. Satara, that is in Maharashtra, Sambalpur of Odisha, Udaipur of Rajasthan, Nagpur of Maharashtra, and Jhansi of Uttar Pradesh were annexed under this policy. The Doctrine of Lapse applied to Jhansi when its ruler Raja Gangadhar Rao died without a natural heir, and the British refused to recognize his adopted son as his heir. The wife of late Gangadhar Rao, Rani Lakshmi Bai, refused to surrender Jhansi. So, a battle of 12 days was fought between the British and Rani Lakshmi Bai. The British then sent a huge force to Jhansi, and Rani Lakshmi Bai too took up the sword against the British. And according to Doctrine of Lapse, Lord Dalhousie refused to accept Damodar Rao as the successor of late Gangadhar Rao and annexed Jhansi in 1853. Annexation of Awadh. Awadh is present-day Uttar Pradesh. Finally, in 1856, the company also took over Awadh, and in 1856, Awadh was annexed by Lord Dalhousie on the pretext of misgovernance. Pretext means false excuse. The ruler of Awadh was Wajid Ali Shah. He was deposed. Deposed means overthrown. This enraged the people of Awadh. Enraged means angered. They joined the Great Revolt of 1857, about which you will read in the next chapter. Means, this time the British had an added argument. They said they were obliged by duty to take over Awadh in order to free the people from misgovernment of Nawab. So the people of Awadh were enraged by the humiliating way in which the Nawab was deposed. So the people of Awadh joined the Great Revolt that broke out in 1857. And about the revolt of 1857, we will discuss in the next chapter in detail. Now, let us read and discuss about opponents of the British rule. The company resorted to direct military confrontation when it saw a threat to its political or economic interests. This can be illustrated with the case of the southern Indian state of Mysore, that is in Karnataka. Mysore emerged as a powerful state under the outstanding leadership of Hyder Ali from 1761 till 1782 and his son Tipu Sultan from 1782 till 1799. Means, Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of the powerful rulers like Hyder Ali, who ruled from 1761 till 1782, and his famous son Tipu Sultan, who ruled from 1782 till 1799. Mysore controlled the profitable spice trade of the Malabar coast. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, that is chandan, pepper, means kali mirch, and cardamom, that is elaichi, through the ports of his kingdom. He prohibited local merchants from trading with the company. Means the profitable trade of the Malabar coast was controlled by Mysore, and where the company purchased pepper and cardamom. But in 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper, and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. Tipu Sultan established friendly relations with the French in India. He modernized his army with their assistance. The British and the Deccan states perceived Hyder and Tipu as a threat. This led to four Anglo-Mysore wars, and they were fought between 1767 and 1799. So we can say that Tipu Sultan had also established a close relationship with the French in India and modernized his army with their help. And the British were furious. They saw Hyder Ali and Tipu as ambitious, arrogant, and dangerous rulers who had to be controlled and crushed. So, in order to defeat Mysore rulers, Anglo-Mysore wars were fought between the British and the Mysore rulers. And finally, in Fourth Mysore War, Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital. And after Tipu Sultan's death, the British annexed his kingdom. Now let us read and discuss about Marathas. The Marathas became very powerful by the middle of the 18th century. They created an empire which included a large part of central India. Their influence was observed in north, western, and eastern parts of India for a short period of time. They, however, declined rapidly after the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. The Marathas were defeated by Ahmad Shah Abdali in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. They became weak after this defeat. Different seats of Maratha power emerged under different dynasties. Dynasties means series of rulers belonging to same family. They were the Gaikwads of Baroda, Gujarat, Holkars of Indore, Madhya Pradesh, Bhosles of Nagpur, Maharashtra, and Sindhyas of Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. They were held together in a confederacy under the Peshwa, that was principal minister, who was based in Pune, present-day Pune in Maharashtra. Basically, Bajirao I organized the Maratha chiefs, that were Gaikwads, Bhosles, Holkars, and Sindhyas, into a union which came to be known as the Maratha Confederacy. And Maratha Confederacy was a power that dominated a large portion of the South India in 18th century, and Peshwa became the head of this confederacy. After the 1770s, the power struggle among the Maratha chiefs intensified. Intensified means raised or increased. Taking advantage of their disunity, the British interfered in their internal affairs. This led to three Anglo-Maratha wars between 1775 and 1818. Means there was lack of unity among the Maratha chiefs. They fought with one another frequently and they often failed to unite for a common cause. And the British took advantage of that and started interfering in their internal affairs, which led to three Anglo-Maratha wars. The first Anglo-Maratha war broke out on the issue of succession to the throne of the Peshwa. Succession means inheriting a title. The clash involved Madhav Rao II, supported by the Maratha chiefs under the leadership of Nana Fadnavis on one side and Raghunath Rao on the other side. Means the main issue of the war was the succession to the throne. There was conflict between Madhav Rao II and Raghunath Rao. Madhav Rao was supported by the Maratha chiefs under the leadership of Nana Fadnavis. Nana Fadnavis was an influential minister in the Maratha Empire during Peshwa's administration. And on the other hand, Raghunath Rao was supported by the British. The united Maratha chiefs defeated the British forces. However, the British forces captured Ahmedabad, that is in Gujarat, and Gwalior, that is in Madhya Pradesh. And in 1782, peace was concluded by the Treaty of Salbai. Means an agreement was signed on May 17, 1782 by the representative of the Maratha Empire and the British East India Company after long negotiations to settle the outcome of the First Anglo Maratha War, and that was known as the Treaty of Salbai. And after that treaty, the British recognized Madhav Rao II as the Peshwa. Peshwa means foremost leader. Now let us read and discuss about the Second Anglo-Maratha War. It was fought from 1803 till 1805, and the Second Anglo-Maratha War happened because the British under Lord Wellesley tried to impose subsidiary alliance on the Scindias and Bhosles. They resisted and declared war against the British. They were eventually defeated. Eventually means in the end. So, the main reason behind the Second Anglo Maratha War was subsidiary alliance. According to this alliance, the Indian rulers could seek the British protection but had to give up their native troops. The British, under the leadership of Lord Wellesley, tried to impose subsidiary alliance on the Scindias and Bhosles, but they were not ready to accept that alliance, so they declared war against the British. In the Second Anglo-Maratha War, the Scindias and Bhosles were defeated by the British. So they had to accept subsidiary alliance as well as give away parts of the territories of Ahmednagar, that is in Maharashtra, and Broch, that is a city in Gujarat. So after the defeat in Second Anglo-Maratha War, the Scindias and Bhosles had to accept the subsidiary alliance and they had to give the territories of Ahmednagar and Broch to the British. After defeating Scindias and Bhosles, the British also attacked the Holkars. They ruled Indore, that is in Madhya Pradesh, but the war did not lead to a decisive result as Lord Wellesley was called back to England and peace was conducted with the Holkars. As Lord Wellesley was called back to England, so the Second Anglo-Maratha War did not lead to a final result. Now let us read and discuss about the Third Anglo-Maratha War. The Third Anglo-Maratha War was fought from 1817 till 1818. Peshwa Bajirao II tried to unite the Maratha chiefs against the British. However, Maratha forces lost. Bajirao II was the last Peshwa of Maratha Empire. He governed from 1795 till 1818 and he was installed as a puppet ruler by Maratha nobles. He tried to unite the Maratha chiefs against the British, but the Maratha forces lost. The office of the Peshwa was abolished. Abolished means removed. Bajirao II was deposed and pensioned off to Bittur near Kanpur. So, after the defeat of Marathas in the Third Anglo-Maratha War, Peshwa Bajirao II was overthrown and sent to Bittur in Uttar Pradesh. And after that, all of his kingdoms as well as the territories of other Maratha chiefs were annexed by the British and they were not allowed to maintain an army. That means after defeating the Marathas in the war, the British occupied all the Maratha kingdoms and the territories and they didn't allow the Marathas to maintain an army. So we can conclude that by the middle of the 19th century, the British became very powerful in India. They conquered almost the entire country. Thus, the phase of economic exploitation of India began. Many factors contributed to their success. They successfully employed the policy of divide and rule in India. The Indians were not united even in the presence of a foreign enemy. The British were also technologically superior to the Indians, and none of the Indian rulers had a strong navy while the British were the king of the seas. So finally, the British became the rulers from the traders in India. Now I hope lesson is clear to you. Your today's homework is to solve and learn the back exercises.